we're talking about hair and mental health. So we have Sally Ann Tarver, who is a tricologist. Hi, Sally.
So hang on, let's just unmute Sally.
Yes.
There we go.
Hello. Hi, how are you doing?
All right, thanks. I suddenly thought, do I need to do anything with my camera, or is it just going to come up?
Doing
How are you?
well.
Yeah, really good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. It was nice to have an excuse to actually put some makeup on and pretend I'm doing something tonight.
Exactly.
But I've forgotten what this is about.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now onto hair, which can be incredibly impacted by stress and anxiety. So our next guest is trichologist Sally Ann Tarver, who is dedicated to trichology. And you've been helping people with hair loss and scalp issues for over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
As
24 this year.
well as, pardon?
24 this year, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
As well as running a busy clinic, the Cotswold Trichology in Evesham. You also are the main distributor of Theradome.
Yeah, the Theradome laser helmet.
Yeah, which I'm really excited to hear about later as well. So first of all, why don't we kick off with why does stress affect hair, first of all?
Stress is quite a major cause of hair loss and hair thinning, particularly in women. The mechanism of it is that basically when we get stressed, our adrenal glands are stimulated, and that stimulates more cortisol, and higher levels of cortisol cause the growing hair to be kicked into the resting phase much faster. So it depends on the degree of cortisol, the level of stress, to how quickly those hairs will be kicked into the telogen or resting phase. So
Fascinating.
if you have a shock or a major stress or a death in the family, or one of those major life events, you will generally see quite a major change in your hair around 2 months later, 2 to 3 months, and that will last for another 2 or 3 months. The problem is people tend to not think about what happened a couple of months ago. They think, what am I doing now? What did I do yesterday? What have I just done to my hair? What's my hairdresser done to my hair? Where in reality it's, what were you doing 2 or 3 months ago? And sometimes people forget things that happen, and then they'll call me up after their appointment, go, I know what it is, I had a car accident. It's like, okay, you forgot that? So there's always a delay, but on the other side of the coin, where people have quite stressful lifestyles, generally they have stressful work, or maybe they're in a relationship they're not very happy with, or
an interesting topic, actually relevant for what's going on at the moment, isn't it?
Not very happy with. It's that sort of long-term drip effect where they're living on a higher level of cortisol all the time. So they're always shedding slightly more hair than they should be, and it just becomes, for some people, if you imagine that there are ladies that are stuck in relationships and have been for years, that they're constantly living in a high level of cortisol, so they will always have that slightly higher level of hair shedding. So it's not until they come out of it that they suddenly realise, this is actually what's normal. What I've been experiencing wasn't normal before.
But they sort of learn to accommodate that normal.
Yeah, they just get used to living up there.
Yes.
And I think with the recent lockdown, for some people, yes, it will have brought on a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. But a lot of people, those people who have maybe, I call it, have been living on the hamster wheel, like busy, suddenly that enforced relaxation where it's like you can't go out, you can't go to work, you can do a little bit of work, but it's not going to be the same kind of work as you do, and you're just going to have to chill out for an extended period of time. A lot of people that I know particularly have suddenly realised that what they've been living isn't actually normal. It's been a bit of a wake-up call to a lot of people that realise they don't have to travel 2 hours on a train to go to work every morning. They can do it at home, and life is a lot calmer and a lot less stressful, which is, in the long run, is going to be better for the health.
Totally. And so when someone is in a state of chronic stress, so you talked about hair shedding. What else are the other things that can happen? You know, do they? I mean, sort of, is there hair pulling or sort of scalp conditions or any other sort of signs?
The hair pulling condition, trichotillomania, often is something that people use as a stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
So they sort of twist and pull.
It's like biting the nails, or the repetitive thing. They actually feel that when they feel the slight sensation of a hair being pulled out, that they get some relief from it.
Quite common.
It becomes a coping mechanism.
It's apparently about 2% of the population that do it.
Yeah.
But once it becomes an ingrained habit, even when the stress that they may have been experiencing that brought it on has gone, they're left with a habit that often they need some help in breaking at some point with a therapist. It's very difficult to get out of. Some people will experience bald patches as well, so it's not always shedding. Shedding is more common, and most people that have stress will get shedding. They don't always notice it, but it will usually happen. Some people will get alopecia areata, which is the patchy form of hair loss. It's a little bit more difficult to treat. In those cases, literally just removing the stress won't always stop the alopecia. It will certainly help, but it usually takes more steps than that.
Yeah. Go on, Lise.
So what would be a treatment plan be for somebody that's experiencing hair thinning?
Hair thinning, in the clinic, we would normally send them off for blood tests first, because even if it seems to be stress, you need to rule everything else out first. Often it may be a two-pronged approach, or there might be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things, all when you put them all into a pot. That they all need addressing, and they're all causing hair loss to some degree. So we normally start with blood tests particularly for thyroid function, iron deficiency, vitamin B12 deficiency, iron deficiency, vitamin D deficiency as well.
Is that quite common, vitamin D deficiency now?
There has been a vitamin D deficiency epidemic in more recent years. I mean, in some surgeries, they won't even test for it, because the doctor will say, well, you're going to be deficient anyway. If you don't go in the sun, you wear sunblock like we're supposed to protect our faces, you will have a vitamin D deficiency. So take it anyway. But some people we find are absolutely on the floor with their vitamin D levels, and they'll have all sorts of other conditions as well. Sometimes things that are often diagnosed as fibromyalgia, that kind of muscle pain, vitamin D deficiency.
Really?
Yeah. My cousin had it for years. She got diagnosed with fibro, and it actually turned out that she was severely vitamin D deficient. And when they treated her for she literally responded in 2 or 3 weeks. She was on a mega dose, because they wanted to see whether she really did have fibromyalgia or whether it was just this vitamin D deficiency. And a couple of weeks, pain gone.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Such a simple thing, but I mean, it's missed a lot. I had a lady once come to me that was born with albinism.
What's that?
She was albino.
Albino. Okay. Yes.
No pigment, but she had a mass of hair. But she came in with a scalp condition, and I said, so you can't go in the sun at all? It's like, no, can't go in the sun ever. Right. And so what's your vitamin D level then? How much do you take? So I don't take any. Never taken any. So you only make it in your skin. You get such a fraction from your diet that you're not going to have any. And she had a lot of symptoms and other mental health issues as well. And she called me up a couple of weeks later and said, I'm just calling to thank you, because my vitamin D level is 8.
Wow.
Yeah, I have none, and that explains a whole rack of all my symptoms that I've got. It's like, I'm amazed. Nobody ever said, like,
Yeah.
you don't go in the sun at all.
Yeah.
Let's test you for this. So it's amazing how often things are missed, and those are the times when I really love my job, when I
Yes.
pick something
Yes.
out that everybody else has
Detective
missed.
work.
And
Yeah.
so obvious that
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really worried at the moment about their hair thinning. How could they get a blood test organised?
Right, you can go to your GP and request it, but at the moment, it's probably going to be rather difficult. Your GP may do it at the moment, and a lot of GP practices are doing blood tests, but if it's not deemed as essential, you may actually be better off just getting it done yourself. You can do that with a number of companies that offer a finger prick blood test. So you buy the kit online. I personally use a company called Thriver.
Oh, yes.
There's Thriver, there's Medichecks, and there's another couple. They all work in the same way. I think their tests may all actually go to the same lab. It's county pathology they all go to. But you can either build your own tests, so pick the things that you want, or they've got little groups of tests together, like the baseline test and the energy test. So that would be a group of things like the vitamin D, the iron, the thyroid, and liver and kidneys and things. It's quite good because a doctor actually looks at it, so you're not left to your own devices in trying to work out what it all means. A GP will look at it and put comments on. If the GP feels that there's something you need medical treatment for, then he'll recommend that you take the blood test to your own doctor. So
quite detailed by the sounds of it. It's quite detailed.
yeah, it's been an absolute godsend, because a lot of people do just want to maintain their own health. But they don't want to keep bothering the doctor about checking the ferritin when actually they're not clinically anemic, but they just want to check that it's not dropped in the last 6 months, that they're maintaining a perfect level. So it means that you can just go and do it yourself.
The doctor who's looking at the blood will then diagnose it and then send it back and say, you're very deficient in zinc or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You should go to the doctor, or you can just take a course of supplements.
Take over the counter, or if it is very bad, he'll say you need to go and see a GP for a prescription, or maybe he might say if your vitamin B12 comes back as being low, he might say you should make your doctor aware of this and ask if they can do further tests. So it's almost like a preliminary for specific things. But I use it. I use it for myself twice a year. So it's very easy to do, and I like to just keep an eye that things are as they should be. I personally have pernicious anemia, which is a vitamin B12 deficiency. So I like to make sure it's absolutely perfect. So otherwise,
so you sort of manage it, keeping on top of it. Do you think that that hair loss through people's lifestyle and chronic stress is becoming more common than it used to be? Do you see more of it?
I don't know. I mean, when I took on my training quite a long time ago, the reason why I took it on was because I saw so many people with all sorts of hair loss and stress-induced hair loss. I was a hairdresser then. I left school, became a hairdresser, worked in the salon, and that's where I got my interest from. I noticed that there were a lot of people with problems, and no one really that knew anything about how to treat it. So I don't know if it's increased.
The patient load hasn't increased as such.
No, I've always seen a lot of people with stress-induced hair loss. People have always had stress. People have always had difficult relationships, difficult housing situations, and jobs that they don't like. And I don't think it'll ever change. But the problem with stress hair loss is that there is no magic pill or magic machine or magic lotion. You have to deal with the source of the stress, which can be a great stress in itself. So you just have to bite the bullet and say, I'm going to do this. It will be horrible whilst I'm trying to sort it out. But you come out the other side, and then you realise that what you're feeling later is actually normal, and you've been living up there.
It's interesting, the sort of tie-in, isn't it, Lisa? There's sort of that, you know, you're looking at, you can't just take a magic pill to make your hair grow back. You've got to deal with the root cause of what is creating that.
I mean, once you've dealt with the stress, there are things that you can use to help it recover. And one of my favourite treatments, obviously, is the Theradome laser helmet.
That's interesting.
What is that?
Have you never not seen one?
No.
So it's a helmet that has lasers inside. It's got 80 lasers inside.
Yeah.
It sits on your head, and basically you press the button. It talks as well.
Treatment 183 started.
So this is mine. This is my second one. I gave my first one to somebody else, but
that's amazing.
Yeah. So you can see underneath the laser kind of hit the top of your head.
Doing exactly.
Just below the crown, and you sit with it on your head for 20 minutes, and that's it. Easy. I like it, and a lot of my patients like it because it is the easiest treatment there possibly is. There's no going into the bathroom twice a day to apply something to your scalp. Everybody sits on their phone every day for more than 20 minutes.
Just a bit, yes.
But yeah, exactly. At the moment, you can treat your hair at the same time as doing something else. So it takes about it takes about 4 months to start to work.
Treatment aborted.
What does it do though? What's it doing with those lasers?
The lasers stimulate blood flow, protein production, and cellular energy. So it works on a part of the hair follicle that creates energy. So it energizes the hair follicle. It doesn't work for everything. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone. I find it works best for either postmenopausal ladies. It works very well for ladies who have just found that their hair, as they've got older, has become finer. So basically, hair aging. Ladies that have had babies and their hair hasn't come back again the way that it used to be. So everyone that has had a child would know that you get hair loss after you've had a baby, and if you're lucky, it comes back. If you're unlucky, it doesn't. And that was what got me into it when I had my daughter. By the time she was 2, I was realizing I was one of the unlucky ones that my hair hadn't come back to the way it was, even though I'd made sure that my vitamin D, my vitamin B12, my iron, everything was nicely balanced. So after many years of telling ladies that that's what they needed to do, and hopefully it will recover, mine didn't. So I actually went out looking for a laser product. It was something that I had been interested in looking at before I had my daughter. And then I thought, well, I have a good reason to go out and actively look now, because I want to use it on myself. And at that particular time, Theradome had come on the market probably about 4 months before.
Okay.
So, and I had studied lasers a lot before I needed one. And what they launched was, if I were building something myself, that is what I would have wanted it to be. So I couldn't believe my luck.
Did your hair change?
It did. Yes, it did. And it's probably the same as before I had my daughter now, if not probably thicker, I think.
Are the strands are thicker and stronger, the actual strands, or do you have more hair?
More hair and less loss. And if I do have a period of stress-induced shedding, it tends to rectify itself quicker and grow back faster. It can't stop stress hair loss. So if you have like a major incident, it may reduce it a bit, but it's not going to stop it. But it does seem to make it turn around a lot quicker.
So when you have someone come to you and they've clearly got an issue which is triggering the hair loss, there's a mental health issue going on, or something something's happening in their life that is causing this sort of state of chronic stress, and maybe they're not aware of that, how do you as the trichologist guide them with the information you have, knowing that that's, you can it's like putting a plaster over a sort of wound that's not been cleaned properly, kind of thing. You're not going to have that sort of much of an impact until that underlying issue is dealt with. And how do you even, when you're first taking on a new client, get to that point where someone can tell you that?
Sometimes it doesn't happen in the first appointment. Sometimes you know that there's something that a person's not telling you.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes you need to see them again.
Yes.
Maybe they might tell you the next time, or sometimes I've had patients that I've seen a few times and I've rectified everything, blood work and everything, and they're saying it's still coming out, it's still coming out. It's like, I know there's something that you're not wanting to say.
Yeah.
And at some point it will come out and you go, oh my God, it's no wonder you're suffering like you are. But unless you can work this out, this is what you're stuck with, and you have to just go through it. You have to
talking about having a therapist in your clinic, weren't you? Because they are very
I used to have a cognitive behavioral therapist. So they're quite helpful for people with things like anxiety driven hair loss, or in some cases people will have anxiety issues so that they think that there is something wrong with their hair. There may not actually be anything wrong with it, but it's often a kind of, they feel that they're not in control of something that's happening in their life. So therefore, if they blame their hair, it takes that being out of control out of the equation. But for many types of condition or people, cognitive behavioral therapy can be very, very helpful, particularly the people that I was talking about earlier, the trichotillomania, people that pull their own hair. Once it becomes a habit, you actually have to have some help to break that habit.
To break the cycle, the pattern, to interrupt it.
Like a form of OCD.
Yes, and some of those can be sort of triggered by different traumas, you know. Someone start to use it as a coping mechanism.
Currently looking for someone that practices cognitive behavioral therapy to come and work with me, because I have availability in my clinic now. My lady that used to work with me unfortunately met a man and moved away.
Sally, can you suggest 3 simple practical tips that people can do at the moment to help their hair health if they are struggling with anxiety?
At the moment, some of the people that struggle with anxiety, we are seeing, and I'm seeing people with webcam consultation at the moment. What I have noticed, and a lot of my colleagues have noticed the same thing as well, that whilst we've been in lockdown, we have had a lot of people that have suddenly noticed, literally in the last couple of months, that they're losing more hair, and that's become a focus of anxiety. So then they do things like they count their hair, they count hairs that they've lost in the wash, and take lots of photos, and in the end up persuading themselves that it's worse today than it was yesterday. But one of the things that we think is triggering that is people are washing their hair less in lockdown. If you don't have to go out, how many days can you get away with screwing it up on top of your head if you haven't got to leave the house? The problem with that is, for every extra day that you leave it without washing, those hairs that you would have naturally lost stay on your head, most of them. They stay in your messy bun. If you manage to put a brush through your hair, then that will take some of them away. But what we are getting is lots of phone calls from maybe patients that we've seen in the past saying, I've been losing clumps of hair every time I wash it. Like, okay, well, how often are you washing it? Like, not very often. So those hairs do build up, unfortunately. So that's one of the tips, is try and keep to a regular washing routine. So normally wash your hair every other day. Try and stick with it. At least it makes the amount of hair that's coming out monitorable. Whereas if you're washing it every 4 days rather than every 2 days, it's always going to look worse. I think at the moment, I mean, one bonus of not washing our hair as frequently is we're not using any heat, really. So that is good. I think we will be finding that our hair is less dry. As a result of using less heat and no hair straighteners. What else?
Are they really bad, the hair straighteners, then?
Oh, terrible! Really, really terrible. The problem with hair straighteners is that I have got a pair. They get used normally about once a month, but as they get older, the thermostats start to get a bit ropey. So they get hotter and hotter and hotter. So they might start off giving you, I don't know, I mean, they can go up to 220 degrees. When the thermostats start to go, literally you can fry bacon really quite quickly with a pair of hair straighteners. And a friend of mine, her very well-known brand straighteners, suddenly the thermostat went, and as she pulled it down her hair, it literally went like, you know, if you ever seen someone's put a lighter to? Yeah, like that. So I think if you do use them, replace them every couple of years, even if they don't have to be broken to be replaced, because when they do break, your hair could be in them.
Yeah.
What do you think of head massage?
Head massage, if you can be bothered to do it frequently enough, it can be beneficial for blood flow, but possibly doing the hang your head upside down thing will do probably more than head massage.
What's the hang? What, just literally put your head upside down?
Yeah, inversion therapy makes all the blood go to your head.
Oh, and how long do you have to do that for?
Headstand or something.
I think it's supposed to be about 20 minutes. But regularly, so it depends if you can be bothered. It is actually easier to wear that 2 or 3 times a week than sit with your head upside down.
So when you wear your product there, does your hair have to be clean, or is there any sort of?
Yeah, ideally a clean scalp. Lasers don't penetrate through dirt very well.
Product or whatever.
Product, particularly like coloured hairspray or fibres and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I do a lot of the troubleshooting and small repairs for these as well when they come back. And the other day, someone sent one to me, and they obviously loved black hairspray. And inside, it was like, oh my God, that is disgusting. But I did suggest that if they wanted it to work, they should not use the black hairspray. Otherwise, the inside of the helmet will be coated, and they won't get light penetration through it.
And could you wear it if your hair was wet coming out of the shower?
Yeah, you can. Towel dry, so you can blot it with a towel. Use it when your hair's damp. And if you've got reasonably or thicker hair, it can work slightly better then, because when your hair's wet, it clumps together. So you get better light penetration to the scalp.
And then you would start to know it was working by what the hairline would be.
Depends what sort of hair thinning you've got. If you've got very thin hair, then you're more likely to see a difference, because there is quite a lot of difference to be made. But if you've got, say, I mean, if someone came in with hair like mine and they felt that it was thinner than it used to be, so it doesn't really look thin, but to them it's different. It might take 6 or 9 months, because they've got to wait for the hair to grow and get longer, and for them to feel when they're styling it that it's doing more.
Sally, thank you so much. That was so interesting.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, well, nice to speak to you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.